Okay, so I know y'all see the title and y'all probably like, WTF. Some of my subscribers follow me on Facebook and Instagram, so they kind of like, where did this baby come from? We follow you and we've never seen you pregnant with this baby. He looked like you, but where the hell did he come from? And I'm about to tell y'all. Okay, so if you follow me on this channel, then you know that I have PCOS and it took me 2 years to conceive my daughter. We tried a lot of different things, a lot of different interventions. It literally took blood, sweat, and tears and a whole bunch of other stuff to get her here, okay? So yeah, just keep that in mind. Okay, so if you have PCOS, you already know that you rarely get pregnant. You rarely get periods. Painful ovulation, painful period cramps, all that good jazz. I had just had my daughter, so I was enjoying my breastfeeding journey, even though that was a roller coaster. That'll be another video. I was pretty much just enjoying the fact that I didn't have to worry about a period because I was breastfeeding, and it probably wasn't gonna come anyway because I had PCOS. I wasn't worried about it until one day I kept having these really bad pains at my side, and the first thing I thought was, oh my god, I have a cyst on my ovaries, and either it has ruptured or is about to rupture because I am in total agony, like pain. So I called my sister because a few days before that, I was telling her about my pain. And she basically was like, go to the hospital. And I kept like making excuses as to why I couldn't go like right then and there. Mind you, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have nothing else better to do. But I just kept making excuses as to why I didn't go. So I called her and I'm like, yo, this pain is like times 10 from what I told you it was the other day. She like, listen, I'm calling you an Uber right now. I'm sending an Uber to your house. You're going to the hospital. When they get outside, make sure you're outside and you're ready to go. I'm like, no, I can't because he has to go to work in the morning and I'm not going to have nobody to watch the baby. It's the middle of the night. I can't wake them up. She like, I'm not trying to hear none of that. I already called the Uber and it's on its way. Then she called me back and was like, the Uber is 2 minutes away, so make sure you're outside. So I had to go. But I was in pain, so I agreed with going at that point. So I go to the emergency room. Mind you, my husband and my baby is asleep. I just get up in the middle of the night. I don't say anything to anybody. I go to the ER in an Uber. And I get there and I'm like doubled over and they're like, oh my God, like, you know, what's going on? And I'm just like, you know, I'm having this pain on my side and it's been like this for a couple of days, but today is like really, really bad. Like I can't sleep. So I just came in. They're like, okay, cool. We're going, you know, get a urine sample. We're going to get a blood sample. We're going to run some tests and we're going to get an ultrasound to see what's going on. Like I explained to them about the PCOS and everything, what I thought it was. So that's what they're going off of. Like, okay, well, this is what she thinks it is. It's her body. Let's check out this. So after I took the urine sample, they came back in the room and it was like, your levels and your numbers are really weird. So we think you might have a kidney infection. So we're going to send you up to get an ultrasound to look at your kidneys. So I'm like, okay. I drink water though. They're like, that has nothing to do with it. Like, you know, like whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I get to ultrasound. Mine just in the middle of the night, closer toward morning. So it's probably like 3, 4 a.m. So it's like really nobody in the hospital. So I got into the into ultrasound pretty quickly. So they got me in ultrasound. The ultrasound tech is like looking at my kidneys and she got like this weird face. Like, so I'm like, whoa. I'm like, do you see anything? She like, 1 second. She just kept saying 1 second. So I'm starting to get frustrated at this point. I'm like, miss, like if it's not the kidney, it's the ovaries. Like, look, I think I have a cyst. Like I really think I have a cyst. Like it hurt Like, I can't lay on this side. I can't touch it, like press it, nothing. It hurt. I feel like it's like tight a little bit on this one side, but it's not tight on the other side. Like, I think like something's swollen, like something's going on. Like, check my ovaries. Like, I have a cyst. She like, just hold on a minute. I'm like, well, what's the problem? She like, it just keeps moving. I'm like, what do you mean moving? She like, I'm trying to get a good picture of your kidney and it just keeps moving. So then I'm like, let me see, so you can see it like jumping, like moving. So she goes over a little bit further with the ultrasound probe, and then she hurry up and turn the screen back around. So I'm like, she's like, this kind of looks, and then she goes over some more, and then she's like going all over my stomach, all down the bottom and all of that. So when she started going down the bottom, I'm like, see, I told you it was a cyst. Like, you know, like, what's going on? She's like, no, it's a baby in here. It's a really big baby in here. I'm like, a big baby? Like, what? She's like, yeah, it's a big baby in here, and your baby is kicking your kidneys, and that's the pain that you're having. I'm like, what? So I'm like, you might have somebody else's ultrasound up on the screen from like the previous person that was in here. I'm like, let me see. So she turned around. She was like, that's your name? That's your date of birth, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, yeah, this is definitely yours. She's like, oh, but I'll be right back. So she kind of like got nervous and like clumsy. She like tripping over the stool that she got up off of, and she like rushing out the room to go get the doctor. So she left the screen on. Usually in the ultrasound, they don't leave the screen on. So she left the screen on. So I'm like taking a picture of the ultrasound screen, and I sent it to my husband. Like, I didn't put no caption or nothing. I just sent him a picture of the thing. And I'm just waiting for his response. And no response. So now I'm freaking out. I'm like, all right, he probably still asleep. Him and the baby not up yet. He'll see it when he get up and he'll respond. So I'm not really worried about it. I'm just like, WTF. So she comes back in and she's like, oh, I have to get a few more pictures and then you can go back, you know, downstairs into your room. So I'm like, okay. So she get her little pictures or whatever, and she's like, I'm gonna send this back to the doctor and then they'll come talk to you in your room. So I get down to the room. So the doctor came in and he was like, how are you feeling? I'm like, besides the kidney pain, I feel normal. He like, okay. He like, I've never seen anything like this in the whole history of me being a doctor. He said, your blood HCG and your urine HCG is off the charts. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I figured you had a kidney infection and that it couldn't be right because I'm looking at you and I'm looking at your HCG numbers and it's just not matching. He said your HCG level is 33,000. He said the only way that's possible is if you are 8 weeks pregnant with triplets. He said, but on the ultrasound there is definitely only one baby in there and the baby is pretty big, and going off the size of the baby has to be about 23 weeks. So I'm like, what? He like, but again, I'm looking at you and it's just not adding up. He like, you don't feel weird? I'm like, no. He like, well, when was the last time you got a period? So I'm like, I don't get periods. I have PCOS, on top of the fact that I'm exclusively breastfeeding my daughter. So he's like, and your milk is fine? I'm like, well, again, I have PCOS and I have a prolactin deficiency. So like trying to give him the whole spiel of why I have low breast milk supply and how it fluctuates depending on what I eat and yada, yada, yada. So he's like, okay. He's like, how old is your daughter? So I told him how old she was. And he's like, okay, well, I believe the reason why you're having so much pain is because your uterus is stretching for a second time in a very short period. So he's like, yeah, we have to get you in for an anatomy scan right away. That'll tell us more. That'll give us more of an estimate of what your due date should be, how far you are, and about when you conceived and all that good stuff. So at this point, I really just don't want to go home because I feel like once I left the hospital, it was just going to make it reality. Like, I had such a horrible time with my first pregnancy. I'm a little bit over halfway through a second pregnancy that I never intended on having. I did not want any more children. I was not trying for any more children. I wasn't even practicing for any more children. So okay. So I'm just like in the hospital at this point, just stalling. Like, they like, I'm like, can I have more fluids? Because like, I'm feeling a little dehydrated. They're like, okay. So they give me an IV. They're like, oh, well, once this bag is done, then you can leave. I'm like, oh, well, can I have a breast pump? Because I haven't breastfed my daughter yet today. And it's been a while since I've been here. And I need to pump. They're like, okay. So they brought me a breast pump. I pumped for an hour, y'all. An hour. I did not want to go home. So after a while, the lady was like, okay, you're free to be discharged. Here's your discharge papers. Like, I just couldn't come up with any other excuses as to why I needed to stay. She's like, here's your discharge papers. I'm like, can I get a copy of that ultrasound picture? They're like, oh, no, we can't give you a copy, but once you schedule your anatomy scan, then you'll be able to get all the pictures you want, this, that, and the third, yada, yada, yada. Y'all. So the whole ride in the Uber home, I'm just like trying to think. So finally I get home and the baby is woke. My husband is woke. He's like watching TV and the baby's just like chilling. So I get her, I'm feeding her. And I'm like, did you get my text? He like, yeah, what's that? I'm like, a baby? I'm like, do you want to talk about it? He like, no. I'm like, okay. He like, oh, well, I guess I gotta go to work then. And he like gets up, leaves, and goes to work. Like, that just was it. Like, he kind of acted like he knew already, which kind of pissed me off because, yeah, how, why? I mean, now I know why, but then it's just like, why? We were pretty much broken up at that point, and we were just kind of like cohabitating for like, you know, the kids, and I guess, I don't even know, for whatever. But that was our situation, and it kind of like caught both of us off guard, like, ew. But yeah. But thinking back all of those months, I'm trying to figure out like why I did not know I was pregnant. Like, how? Okay, it's time for me to go pick up the kids, so I'm going to be recording the rest of this in the car. Okay. So at this point, let me turn this off. So at this point, I'm home. My husband just left for work. So now it's just me and the baby, and I'm just left with my thoughts. I have my calendar out. I have my due date calculator. Trying to figure out how and when this happened. Now, I say that because for 2.5 months, around the time of the approximate conception, my husband was in Florida for work. So unless this is baby Jesus, I do not know how this happened. I kept questioning myself why. Because at that point I was trying to make a plan to leave, and I just felt like another baby on top of the baby that I'm already struggling with was only going to further keep me stuck in my situation that I did not want to be in. I immediately went into a depression again, and that was that. So what I did was, I'm like, okay, I have to make this anatomy scan appointment, because me doing all of these predictions and trying to figure out when my due date is or when I conceived is pointless if I don't know an accurate roundabout of how far I am. So I believe it was like a Monday, and I called to schedule an emergency appointment. I explained to them everything what was going on and that I needed to get this done right away. They scheduled me for a Friday. So I'm like, okay, Monday is only a week. This is gonna be a long behind week. Just like sitting on this with the unknown, or like half known, half not known, or whatever. So yeah, that was that. So then I'm like, okay, well, I have to call my mom. Like, I have to tell somebody. So I called my mom, and I'm like, yeah, I just came back from the hospital. I thought I had a cyst that ruptured, but no, it's a baby. She like, dang. And then she immediately goes into the, oh, remember when this happened and I was saying that, you know, you possibly could have been, and you kept brushing me off. I knew it. I knew you were. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So she's like doing everything she can to try to make me remember these specific moments in time as to when she kind of assumed that I may have been, because of whatever was going on at the time. So that summer we had took my daughter to Sesame Place, and when we went to Sesame Place, I didn't have an appetite, and she was trying to get me to eat, and I'm like, I don't want to eat. Like, I don't, you know, I don't feel hungry. I don't want to eat. This is when I had first like started her on like baby food and stuff, or maybe a little while after that, but she was like on baby food and stuff. So we had went to Target and had got her some baby food and stuff, and because I knew she wasn't gonna be breastfeeding that much that day, being as though we were going to be in the park and all that good jazz. So she just like, it's really, really hot out. You need to stay hydrated. You need to eat something. I'm like, I'm really not hungry. Like, I really don't want nothing. And she was like really trying to push me and convince me to eat. And then after a little while of us being at Sesame Place, I started feeling really lightheaded. And she like, you sure you're not pregnant? And I'm like, well, if I was pregnant, wouldn't I be eating more and not eating at all? She like, no, because the last time, I'm like, yeah, well, the last time I was sick, it's different. Like, I don't feel sick as to why I'm not eating. I'm just not eating because I'm not hungry. Like, I don't want it. And then we kind of like had that conversation, and then she just like left it alone. But once she said that, I'm really thinking now about like any other time that I probably felt weird and just never thought I was pregnant. Like, right. So then I'm thinking about a time where I was doing a client's hair and I felt like really, really dizzy and lightheaded, like I was going to fall out. So I kind of was like, maybe it's my blood pressure because I didn't eat or whatever. I drank some orange juice and I was fine, but I was having like heart palpitations. Like, I couldn't catch my breath. Like, it was just really, really weird. But after a while, it kind of just went away, and I never like really try to associate it with anything or diagnose myself or anything like that. That was just something that kind of like happened. But other than that, I didn't have any sickness. I didn't feel any movement. I didn't have any, nothing, like absolutely nothing. When I was pregnant with my daughter, it was absolutely horrible. Like, I knew from ADPO. ADPO is 8 days past ovulation. So I found out I was pregnant when I was 8 days pregnant. So I knew very, very early on. And at 6 weeks and 1 day was when I immediately got sick and was sick my entire pregnancy. This time, I didn't know ish, okay? Like, nada, nothing. So I'm just sitting there thinking back, like, okay, well, this had to happen around February-ish. because immediately after our anniversary is March 5th. Now, when I conceived my daughter on our anniversary, which is March 5th, and her due date was November 15th, right? He left for Florida March 10th. The due date that they had given me would have been around the time, like I would have conceived around the time that he was in Florida. So I'm like freaking out. But anyway, so Friday gets here and I finally get the anatomy scan, and they're basically like, do you want to know what it is? And I'm like, no, you can tell him, but I don't really want to know. And yeah, so they did the whole anatomy scan, and they're like, okay, we're gonna tell him what it is. But they're like, this baby isn't given 23 weeks. This baby is given very much 27 weeks. And your due date would be November 22nd. So that's literally like a week after my daughter's due date, which means I would have had to conceive a week before my anniversary, which means that this happened a week before he left for Florida. I know y'all probably like, girl, make it make sense. I'm trying to make it make sense without making any accusations, but yeah. All I'm gonna say is this was during the time of us breaking up. He was gonna be out of town. The last time he went out of town, I kind of skipped town. I mean, I eventually came back, but you get where I'm going. He was trying to make sure I did not have a hot girl summer, and yeah. And I believe that's why he wasn't surprised when I kind of told him, like, yeah. He kind of was like, oh well, type of thing. Like, he wasn't surprised or anything. But anyway, they're like, yeah, you're given very much 27 weeks. So I'm like, dang. 30 weeks, then 40 weeks. So I literally only have 12 weeks left of this pregnancy. Dang. It was crazy. So now at this point, he's kind of like happy, and I'm not understanding why. I guess because he knew the gender and I didn't, so that was kind of giving him like some type of excitement to be excited over. But I didn't give a damn whether it was a girl or a boy, a monkey or a horse. Like, I literally just went through this like 5 minutes ago. I just don't want to be pregnant. I just don't want to be, like, I'm just over it. Like, I really felt like I was trying to like get back to myself, come out of the depression that I already had, trying to, like I said before, come up with a way to get out of this relationship or situationship or whatever the hell you want to call it. I was really like trying to make plans to like make my granny escape. Like, how am I gonna do that with 2 babies? Like 2 under 2. Like, it was 2 under 1 at this point because my daughter hadn't even turned 1 yet. So yeah, that's how that went. So we leave the appointment and we're like walking back through the parking lot, like to the car or whatever, and I just had to ask, like, why are you so damn happy? Like, he like, I'm just happy because your dad's gonna be happy. And I'm like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Like, what? Then I'm like, oh snap. I'm like, what, it's a boy? He like, yeah. I'm like, okay. That kind of got me a little bit excited because I always told my dad that if I had a son, I would name him after him, being though he didn't get a chance to have any boys. And he always wanted a junior, and he never got a chance to have one. When him and his ex-wife gotten pregnant, they thought that they were having a boy. The doctors told them that they were having a boy, and delivery day comes and my sister was born. That was a really big devastation for him. So I always told him, like, if I was to get pregnant with a son, I would name him after you, and he would be a little Cam. So that kind of gave us some type of excitement, like to look forward to, like how my dad's reaction would be and stuff like that. So we left the appointment and called my dad, and he told them I didn't even want any part of the nonsense. Like it's so bad thinking about it now, but I really didn't want a part of any of it. Like, I was there, I was carrying the baby, but that was it. Like, I really felt like a surrogate type of thing. Like, I couldn't connect, I couldn't anything. Like, I just was there. But yeah, he called my dad. This guy right here looked like one of the players off of All American. But anyway, so he called my dad and was like, yeah, guess what? And he was like, I don't remember how the conversation went, but my dad was happy, but he was more so like, what? Like, how? Like, what? Like, he couldn't understand, like, how this had happened. He didn't know all of the circumstances that we were under and everything that was going on, but he kind of knew that something wasn't right, and he definitely knew that you can't, like, just now be pregnant and just now find out that you're this far enough to know if it's a boy or a girl. And he like, I literally just seen her yesterday, and trust me, she's not pregnant. So he thought it was a prank. He knows that we do YouTube, and he knows that we do pranks on people, like prank calls and stuff like that. So he literally thought it was a prank. So what we had to do was we had to take the ultrasound pictures to my dad and my grandma's house and show them the pictures. But they're still like looking at the pictures, and they're like looking at me, and they're like, well, where is it? I'm like, he in there somewhere. Now, mind you, at this point, like I said, I found out Monday, and Friday was my appointment. So between Monday and Friday, my stomach grew, like literally overnight. Like, the moment I found out, my stomach had grown, but it didn't grow to the point where I looked full blown 7 months pregnant. I looked like I was about 3, maybe 4 months. And everybody is just looking at me like, how? Where? I think I look more pregnant now than I did when this all was taking place. As soon as I pull up to the light, I'm gonna try to show y'all my stomach right now. This ain't nothing but a boo baby though, y'all. Boo baby. Okay, so can you see me? This is my, yeah, that's what I look like. Just like that. And they're basically like, yeah, where is this baby? Because when you're looking at the ultrasound pictures, it's literally a full-blown baby. Like, it don't look like all weird like how it do in the initial stages of ultrasound. It looks like a baby. I'm gonna insert some pictures of the ultrasound. This glare is annoying me, like, so bad. But anyway, so that's how that went. And I kind of just, like, you know, sat around talking to my grandma for a while, and she's just like, I can't believe this. Like, we've been spending so much time together. This was right before she passed. We've been spending so much time together. Like, you over here like all the time, almost like every day with you and the baby, and I don't like nothing. You haven't been sick, you haven't this, you haven't that. I'm like, I know, right? My grandma's house was my little escape, my little piece of heaven. She would feed me all crazy, and we would watch her soap operas. We would watch Maury, the Steve Wilkos show, Real Housewives of Atlanta. She used to love that show. What is it? Married, Love After Lockup. She used to watch Love After Lockup. I hated that damn show, but she loved it so much. The Haves and the Have-Nots, like, she just was a show freak at this point, and she just stayed home and just watched shows all the time. And I just would go over there and chill, hang out with the baby, do her hair and stuff like that. But she was basically like, yeah, you've been over here like damn near every day this week, and I like, this is crazy. Like, this is mind-boggling. Like, I don't know what's going on. This glare is driving me nuts. But anyway, yeah. So I didn't tell anybody else. I kind of like, after that day, I kind of like pushed it out of sight, out of mind. I didn't think about it. I have this habit of when something like stresses me out and I want to ignore it, I like jump into something else that will devour my entire attention, my entire like my time and all of that. So I jumped into planning my daughter's first birthday party. Her first birthday party, I wanted to be the utmost extravagant. Like, extravagant. I wasn't thinking about no baby shower. I wasn't thinking about no car seat, no baby clothes, no nothing. I was just thinking about my daughter's birthday party, and that's it. So she had a royal strawberry theme. It was kind of like a kiddie prom. All the kids had to dress up, and it was just really, really nice. So I started planning that. I got fabric. I started making her dress from scratch. I started watching endless YouTube videos on how to make like the little treats and how to decorate the table and balloon arches. Like I literally like went all out for this little girl's birthday party, just to kind of keep my mind off of that. So yeah, so fast forward to her birthday. Mind you, nobody knew I was pregnant except for my mom, my dad, his mom and his dad, and my grandma. So now it's the day of the party and everybody's all dressed up, and I have on this tight fitting red dress, floor length gown, and everybody walked in like, oh my god, you're pregnant? Why you didn't tell us? Like, what's going on? Like, oh my god, what are you having? Like, you know, the whole 9 months worth of questions. They're like, oh, and when are you due? And I'm like, next week. They're like, next week. I'm like, yeah, the 22nd. They're like, oh my god, why you didn't tell us? Why was it a secret? I'm like, it wasn't a secret. I just didn't bother to talk about it. Like, I didn't want this whole birthday party to be about me and his belly. Like, I wish at that moment I could just take it off, sit it down, and come back to it once the party was over. Like, I just didn't want to talk about it. I didn't have most of the answers to the questions they were asking me, and it just started bringing back like feelings that I just didn't want to feel at the moment. Like, it just was crazy. But everybody found out at her first birthday party. Some people was mad, some people was happy, some people was pissed the fuck off, some people went psycho, but whatever. Yeah, it wasn't that I was trying to hide it, it's just that I wasn't ready to deal with it on my own because it was shocking to me. I was already still in my former depression with the hermit stuff, so I wasn't talking to nobody, I wasn't posting pictures of myself, I wasn't doing anything outside of focusing on this baby's birthday party. So that's how that went. A month or two after he left for Florida, I went to Miami with my little sister for her and her girlfriend's 21st birthday. Looking back, when I was on that trip, y'all, while I was on that trip, at first I figured I just had jet lag because I hadn't been on a trip in a while. This is the first time me going anywhere, taking any flights after I just had a baby. I'm pretty much engorged at this point from the plane ride. I literally was full, huge. I had a travel pump. So when I got to the Airbnb that we stayed at, I literally pumped and I went to sleep. I figured I just was, you know, tired from the plane ride. But then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, damn, I literally, like, damn near slept the whole damn trip. Like, seriously. Even with the drinking and stuff, like, I had drinks, but I'm a drinker, like a heavy drinker. And I just didn't really care to drink. Like, I didn't feel sick or anything. I just didn't really feel like it. Like, my last night there, though, I definitely went in on Henny, which I don't drink. But I was like, this is our last night in Miami. I'm gonna have fun. Yada, yada, yada. But, yeah, my boobs were huge. like super huge. And I figured it was just because my daughter wasn't breastfeeding and the pump wasn't doing a good job with expressing all the milk, so I figured I just was full. But my boobs was huge, and I was sleeping a lot on that trip. Like, I missed a lot, but they was like younger and like doing wild young stuff, and I just really didn't want to be a part of it. I just was like, oh, okay, I'll catch up with y'all when y'all get back, like that type of thing. Like, I really didn't really care for it. Again, I still was in the middle of my depression during that time, so I kind of chalked it to that. And on top of that, like, I was broke. Like, I ain't really had that much money, so I really couldn't do everything that they wanted to do. I ain't had no job then. I just was like a stay-at-home mom. My husband was in Florida doing his thing with his job or whatever, and you know, money was kind of tight, so I wasn't really worried about spending too much money and doing too much wild stuff in Miami. I really was going to be a chaperone for my sister and her girlfriends, because you know, this is their like first trip or whatever. And I really got to do a story time about that trip, y'all, though, because my chaperoning skills was not on A1, and my sister almost got kidnapped. So I definitely got to do a story time about that, because it was crazy. But yeah, I'm the pictures from Miami. Baby, where? Baby, where? Cause no, baby, where? But yeah, that was a story about how I didn't know I was pregnant with baby number 2. I'm going to try to do a video tonight where you guys can meet him like you guys met Strawberry. We'll see how that goes. He doesn't like to cooperate very much. She's more in tune, he's more wild. So yeah, we'll see if he sit down for a video. But thanks for listening. If we can get this video to at least 25 likes, then I'll do that Miami story time, because it was crazy and I really think that it would be entertaining for you guys. So show me some love. Let's get at least 25 likes. I feel like I'm really starting from scratch. Like, I'm used to getting so many views and likes and comments from you guys on this channel, but since I haven't been on here for so long, I feel like I'm starting from scratch, and that's okay. I want to build you guys' trust again to know that I'm here for stay, so that's fine. So we're gonna start off with something small. Let's see if we can get this to 25 likes, and I'll do the story time video. But thanks for listening, and see you later.